Welcome back to the channel. My name is Crawford. This is Virginia's for Lowriders. And today, just like every other weekend for the last 6 months, or however long it's been, there's 20 some odd episodes of it, or whatever you want to call those. We're getting straight away already. It happens a lot. So just be prepared for that. We have been ADDing our way through the build of this Mazda B series. Body drop, suspension work, exhaust work, you name it, we're touching it, we're cutting it up. Last week, we went through, extended the fender tubs that I put in the previous week, did some paint work, did some sheet metal work, did some preparation for some wiring. We're doing it all pretty much. We started the electric fan conversion. So if you haven't seen last week's video, go check that out. Here is the start of the electric fan that we're doing. I made a fan shroud from scratch. I'm not totally happy with it. I think it could be a little bit stronger. So hopefully this weekend, depending on the mail, we can come up with a way to make that a little stronger. Yesterday, I drove about 2 hours away from my house and met with a guy that had these rivet setters on Marketplace for a crazy deal. Got talking to him about some stuff, and it turns out he had all of this other stuff in his attic. He actually had more, but a lot of the stuff I've never seen before. These are all aircraft related. The man had retired from building airplanes or fixing them, or something to do with airplanes. That man worked on them. So he gave me a pretty good deal on all of this stuff. So hopefully, if you've never seen aircraft rivets, I'll try and add some pictures in of what people normally do with those or what they're intended for. So I'm hoping to add that to my fabrication abilities, and hopefully we can add that to this project to help expand the coolness of it and my, again, abilities of being able to build things. So the fan shroud is a little thin. I'm hoping that I can rivet some stuff to it. I could easily just use the TIG welder and TIG weld some other random piece of aluminum to it, but I feel like this is a lot cooler. Plus I have some other projects that it's kind of almost mandatory to have aircraft rivets on. So he also had some aluminum. Generally speaking, these are specifically used for aluminum shaping. I've been looking for these for a long time. I have a hammer problem, if y'all have ever noticed that, but we're already getting straight away here. It's weekend. There is no, this is exactly what we're going to do, because that's never the case, it seems like. I have some things that I would like to do, and those things are seam sealing the inner fenders on the tubbed firewall portion, seam sealing some other stuff, getting everything in primer. I want to finish out the metal work on these guys because I only got about halfway through it last week. Just a little bit more to where it'll completely disappear. Finish up the firewall work. I got this in. I'll show you all exactly what I'm planning on with that. So yeah, we're going to be doing some stuff. If you've never been here before, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, all the normal YouTube stuff. Go check out all of the old videos. I'm going to try to stop rambling about this, and we'll start rambling about some other stuff now, maybe. So yeah, do the thing with the subscribing and all that. Before I get to the seam sealing, I figured I'd mention it just in case I got any actual Mazda guys on here that are trying to do... This is basically turned into a restoration rather than like a mini truck build. Stuff is so rusty around here and so brittle because all of the plastic is just getting sun deteriorated, and it's almost like project vehicles are mostly restorations rather than just customizations. Yeah. So in dealing with this truck, this thing, I've found so many layers of paint. There is There is purple under here. The truck obviously was gray, then they painted it silver, and then they painted it green, and they painted it purple, and then there was some two-tone stuff going on that I found. This thing has been taken apart I don't know how many times. So whoever has been taking it apart over all of the years and just ruined all this sheet metal that I had to bang around and get straightened back out, they managed to ruin all of these little clips. And I found those little clips on eBay. They're kind of pricey, but they're exactly like the OEM ones. I haven't found the square ones yet, but I managed to find enough of them to complete installation of the grill. But these, again, for Mazda guys specifically, these are on eBay. It's like 18 bucks for 10 of them, which is ridiculous because they're tiny little pieces of plastic, and if I could have did it in a timely manner, I just would have 3D printed them, but I don't think I could have. I would have wasted so much time. But again, getting straight away here. Let's tape some stuff. I'll comment a link to those if anybody wants to know where to buy them. That's what I'm trying to get at. So in no particular order, pretty much at all, we're gonna seam seal a little bit. The seam sealer sets up not necessarily immediately, but it's paint ready in an hour, so it sets up pretty quick. So I'm gonna go through and tape. There's a seam in here that I'm having a really hard time getting 100% metal finished. So I'm going to put a very thin coat of seam sealer here. Maybe in here, because this is actually 3 different sections. And the reason I did this and not just one big swoop is the foot pedal for the clutch is right behind that. Your foot almost touches this piece of sheet metal. So I was trying to build this around where your foot lays when you're depressing the pedal. So it's going to look a little weird until it's painted. There's going to be a few lines, but I think it's going to help everything look nicer. Once it's painted, be stronger, because the seam sealer adds a little layer of protection. So I'm going to back tape all of this, seam seal it, peel the tape off. While that's setting up, we're going to go in here and start hammering this out. I need to remove that guy. I need to get this corner welded on both sides. We're going to keep the ball rolling here. So that's the plan. Alright, so like, I don't know how long it's been, like 2-3 hours or something. I didn't even pay attention to when I started. But we're like a strong 85% smooth. I think it's smooth enough that textured paint is going to cover any impurities that I got, or any waviness. I don't know. I think it's fine. It is looking pretty good. Really, the only spots that it's a little bit wavy is back in here, and I'm just over trying to hold the dolly in there. So we're gonna prime it, see how the primer looks. Got this side nice and smooth also. Everything's looking pretty good. I added a little bit of a kick out to both of these to give it some kind of a shape rather than just straight. Looking pretty good. Got both sides welded across the top and ground down. Both sides are fully welded on the inside and ground down. So what I need to do now, which I'm leaving the corners out because I've been thinking about this and I want it to be able to drain. I don't want that to hold any kind of water. I mean, the chance of their water getting in there is kind of low. I don't want any chance of it creating an issue later, and cutting those corners out later would be a pain in the butt. I got the booster off, everything's sanded, engine's tarped up. So now I need to do some seam sealing around those edges that we just worked on and prime everything and probably paint everything, and that'll probably be good progress for tonight. And while that's drying tonight, hopefully in the morning everything will be nice and ready to be fondled and whatnot. Then we can start putting the front end back together. And while I'm working on that, wiring, tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, if I feel up to it, I need to fill in the gap on the bottom of the frame rail here, and then all of that can be painted, and the radiator can go back in, and yada yada yada. So I'm gonna seam seal real quick, let that set up, and then prime. That's the plan. So it's going to be a little blotchy until everything dries, and I might have to touch up some spots here and there, but the blotchiness will go away. But I'm going to go inside and go to bed and pick this back up in the morning because I can't breathe in here. Alright, we're back out here. It is Saturday. Everything is dry. Before I show y'all, speaking from personal experience with this stuff, it's Duplicolor bed liner in a can. I have used it on 2 other projects, and I do know that the blotchiness does go away. It just takes a while for everything to like hit a certain sheen where it all matches, I guess. So initially it does look blotchy, and the camera for whatever reason makes it look way worse than it actually is. But I'm happy with it. It looks pretty good. All of my sheet metal work paid off. All of those hours of beating and banging and grinding and all of that. The seam work looks pretty awesome. Everything is seamless and smooth. Even though, like, if you've watched the previous videos, nothing is welded on this side of the fender. Everything is welded from behind, and then just a tiniest bit of seam sealer around the edges to fill in that teeny tiny gap. But everything's looking pretty good. I'm happy with it so far. Not sure how well you can see that through the camera, but all of it looks pretty good. So, just a note, I don't care about any of this. The rotors are getting changed, calipers are getting changed, the rest of it's getting sandblasted, and hopefully the control arms are getting powder coated. All of that stuff is getting sanded and painted, probably a gloss, so overspray doesn't matter. Most of this stuff is trash. The shock and lower control arm shock mount are getting moved. I don't have a lot of experience with adjustable suspension stuff and shocks because most of everything that I build for myself, I've bagged trucks in the past for friends, and I just left the shock part up to them. Most of everything that I build for myself, or not most of, all of the things I build for myself are hydraulics. And I don't like my Caprice. There's no spring, there's no shocks, there's nothing but a cylinder connected to the suspension. That's it. So that rides better than a factory Caprice does, and there is no shock involved. So this is all trial and error for me. I'm not happy with the lower mount. As you can see, it's binding a little bit at full lift, so that's going to get cut off. I'm going to put a stud on it going the opposite way and push this in towards the frame a little bit because the clearance was just a little off and it would barely rub when you're turning. But yeah, all of that stuff's going to get cleaned up and hopefully look really nice. Not really sure where to go with today, or with the project today. Thinking I really want to get a start on pulling the intake off and getting the carburetor dunked in the ultrasonic cleaner, and I'd really like to work on the riveting portion of the project and use my new tools. The rivets I ordered haven't shown up yet. I got one pack of them and they're kind of big. I might convince myself by tonight or tomorrow to tackle that. Not totally sure. I think we're just going to let ADD do its thing. I'm going to do some bouncing around. I'm not exactly ready to lay on the ground and grind yet. So I'm probably going to put the frame portion of the project off on the front frame horns for most of the day until I talk myself into it, which might happen tomorrow. I don't know. But yeah, we're just gonna do stuff. See what happens. All right, my ADD brought me to I need instant gratification. So we're going to be installing some new parts finally. I feel like I really haven't installed much of anything on here except for stuff I've welded to it. So in my hoard of parts for this truck, I got some of these. And I got this part here I will explain in a later video. But for now, we are going to be cleaning up the old headlight housings from the parts truck, since my buddy's not using those. I'm gonna rob those, and installing some halogen conversion H4 housings, and I got some of the standard 90s and now all of the Subaru Guys love those horns, and I understand why, because they are extremely loud. And I feel like, I don't know what it is with mini trucks. It's like, I don't know if they're just small enough that people don't notice them, but we need all of the noise we can get to avoid potential incidences. We're not going to say the A word because we don't want to jinx anything, but we're going to mess with some headlight stuff real quick. That's what I'm trying to get at. Alright, so I got the headlights and horns on. I know the horns look kind of gaudy and bulky and whatnot, but I don't know if you've ever heard the factory Mazda horn. There's not much to it, and I don't know if you've ever heard the hella, whatever they call these things, horns, but they are extremely loud. So they're kind of bulky, but the grill hides them completely, and you can kind of see the difference here. These things are well worth the, like, I think they're like 30 bucks, and those things suck. So yeah, got the headlights on. These are glass bulbed, but they're also an H4, so it has a somewhat factory-ish appearance, but they hold a better bulb. So I've been cleaning and contemplating and pacing back and forth and doing the normal ADD thing. I can't stay concentrated on what I got going on. And some of the rivets came in, and I didn't realize they were splined shanked because I didn't read the description well enough, I guess. And I practiced a little bit, just going back and forth because I've never done this before. Not positive if I'm going to use those on this project. I ordered aircraft ones off eBay, and for whatever reason those are hard to find on Amazon. So basically what I got in so far, the Amazon stuff, the eBay stuff said it'll be here Monday, and the video will be posted before then. So that part of the project might not get tackled. I don't know. I can still cut the sheet metal, and I'm rambling. So I'm just going to pull the intake off, and we're going to try and get something done. Instant gratification rather than me pacing back and forth and trying to figure out something to do. I don't know. I'm rambling. Let's just do something. Alright, so got the intake off, got the carburetor off, and all of the random adapters that you need to run a Weber. And this is what we're left with. Somebody obviously has been in here and smoothed a majority of this, and they did an awesome job at that. I just want to take it to the next step. You can see somebody had welded something shut here already, and it kind of looks like this has been welded shut. So I'm going to remove this, weld that shut. I'm thinking about removing these guys because it doesn't make sense to leave them there. But these are the problematic thing. For the little bit of time that I've owned this truck, these, like every other time it seems like that I go to drive it or start it, whenever the few times that I have driven it or started it, one of these caps would pop off. And I do not know why. Like, when they went on, they were tight going on there, and they I don't know. So the plan is try to remove these, which most likely they're not going to just come out. Get off what I can, drill the rest of it off, grind these smooth, weld it shut, grind that smooth, and polish it back. I'm going to cut these ears off because they're not needed anymore. I'm going to cut a portion of this ear off because it's not needed. Debating on just cutting this off altogether. I'm running the electric fan conversion setup, but I'm thinking about hiding all of it, so I really don't need any of this. I'm not sure if behind this, if I just ground this flat, if it would be a really big hole. So I'm going to take these off and try to look in there, because you can't really see in there no matter which way you look in it. So that's the plan. Grinding, welding, grinding, polishing, and hopefully we make this thing look brand new. Oh, we might get lucky on this. Maybe that's why the intake always seemed like no matter what, it seemed like there was a vacuum leak. Because that is not in there tight at all. Feels like it's bent, but I mean, I can twirl it around with my fingers without any effort. Oh, same thing with that. Are we gonna get that? Every single one of these. These almost look handmade. I'm pretty sure somebody made these. These ones don't look factory. That looks like a piece of copper tubing. This, it looks at least sort of factory. So yeah, that could be a problem. Well, we're making it look cool and fixing problems at the same time. This is going to sound a little weird, but if you're cutting aluminum or grinding aluminum or any kind of abrasive or metal is touching aluminum in any kind of fashion, like carbide bits is one of the big ones that I do this with. Get some cheap soap that you don't mind the smell of. Irish Springs is kind of strong, but they sell it at the dollar store for like 2 for $1 or whatever. And what you want to do is, so for instance, my bandsaw, if I was to cut the tabs off of this guy without the help of the soap, this would get gummed up immediately and just not work. Same thing with my grinding belts. So all I do, get that belt nice and loaded up with the soap and start cutting. Same thing with the grinding wheel. So you'll see it just zips right through it, and any other time it would stop within a few minutes because it's completely gummed up. So, got the bulk of that guy cut off. That whole random bracketry holder thing. One of those, and that ear. So, now, I'm going to take a flap disc, and again, I'm going to load it up with some Irish Spring. I'm going to knock all of this stuff down. I was debating on trying to cut this down because this is unused. I actually made the little cover plate that was there. Debating on filling all this stuff in. I'm not sure. This is still undecided, but that went pretty quick so far. We've been working on this for like 20 minutes. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. That stuff gets on everything, and it's like a super fine powder. It's all over the place, but we're looking pretty good so far. So now we just have to fill those holes. This is going to take a while to fill, but I think we'll be all right. Get the TIG welder set up and try and buzz through this. See if we can get this done tonight, hopefully. I got some friends coming over, so not sure if that's going to happen, but that's the plan. Not a lot of impurities in this. A lot of like little dimples, little holes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the finest casting.
Like spots that I didn't even weld at. Yeah, there's no weld there. There's little holes and stuff. Not holes, but well, my buddy came by and we went and got some dinner. I came back and I polished and polished and polished. I didn't get all of it on camera, but it is looking pretty good. It's covered in fingerprints right now. Everything is nice and smooth. There are some impurities that kept popping up through the weld through here because these are coolant passages, and in here this is like EGR related, and I welded it, I ground it down, I welded it, I ground it, I welded it. I did it like 4 times, and no matter what I did, it's kind of hard to tell. There's little bits of impurities here. So I got a new adapter because the old one was cracked. When I was going to bolt it up, I noticed that there is a very large restriction, and this little truck needs everything that it can possibly get as far as an advantage of potential power or just running smoother. I'm not necessarily looking for horsepower here, but see the teal? That's where I marked it with Sharpie. That's a restriction. And then on top of that, the teal on here is another restriction. So I'm going to take my little burr bit. I got one for aluminum. I'm just going to hog all this stuff out, make it one nice smooth passage all the way down through, make a huge mess. My GoPro's probably going to die while I'm doing it. So I'll probably see y'all in the morning, and hopefully I'll be done grinding aluminum. I'll show you in the morning. It's a huge mess now. Like I said earlier, it's bad. It's terrible. Yeah, let's try and finish this up. I'd say that flows a little bit better. It's nice and smooth transition. Everything is tapered to where the carburetor still has a taper going up to it or down from it. It's kind of weird the way the shadows catch it, but there's no lip there. Everything's smooth. Whole intake didn't turn out too bad. A couple hours worth of work, a little bit of welding, a lot of grinding. I mean, look at this. This is just one part of the garage. It's terrible. Got a lot of cleaning to do tomorrow. It took forever to get all of that nasty RTV off of there that the last guy thought, I don't know. He thought everything needed to be held together with that, I guess. I'm going to bed. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning now. All right, it is Sunday, almost nighttime, but I messed with some stuff off camera, did a bunch of polishing, and I think the intakes is about as good as it's going to get. I'm happy with the way it came out, happy with the port job. There's just, like I said last night, there's so much impurities in that old oil, fuel, carbon, you name it, it's soaked in it. Intake. Everything in there. Like at one point, the TIG torch was actually catching on fire because the carbon buildup on that one port for where the EGR is supposed to be. It's pretty rough. So I'm happy with that. I think we can move on from that finally. But here is the final results of it on the engine with the matching of the adapters and whatnot. Everything's looking pretty smooth. That big bracket was here. Those big ports were here. This was big, all, yeah. So it's looking pretty good. Cleans up everything a lot. I'm going to do the valve cover. I don't feel like getting covered in aluminum again today. The valve cover will get done. So trying to think of something that we can knock out just to have some kind of, I don't know, more appealing progress for Sunday, I guess. I was debating on welding that muffler on that I've brought up for the last 4 weekends in a row or whatever it's been. But you know, I really don't feel like doing that. I was really hoping that those rivets would have came in today. Some came in, and apparently I can't read, and I bought some steel ones, and I'm not trying to use steel on here, so I'm going to remove the shroud again from the radiator, take all that off, come up with my templates. I have enough little pieces that I can make the pieces I was going to put on there. I can Cleco everything together for now and have it ready to hopefully rivet together, hopefully tomorrow. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Try and get something done. And oh yeah, I didn't explain this. Maybe we'll knock that out first, because that shouldn't take very long. Well, I tried to use my large bender, but for some reason it does not like this pipe, and it just kept on kinking it over and over and over. But I got a smooth bend out of it, out of this old, I don't know, it says USA on it. It must be really old, and it's a Blue Point. So it's got to be really, really old. But got a nice smooth bend out of that. I want that to come probably over here and bend down. Something like that. Start of the bend. Up and around. That way all the vacuum lines are dipping down rather than all up here in the way. Alright, I came up with a game plan here. I have these fuel line tie downs. I only have these in a double-sided, so I took one to the bandsaw. These are stainless steel, so they don't have to be coated or anything. This fits. Let me get that off the ground, bolted in place, and I'll show you what I'm talking. Okay, now you can see what I was getting at. The tube is installed and just roughly set on there, but you get the idea. That little bracket is up in there. It's just zip tied in place on this side for now, but I wanted this to be, I can shorten this up a little bit. I wanted it to be relaxed with no kinks or anything, but I think that's a good solution for that. Once it's painted black, it'll blend completely in. Kind of stands out being that like dark green color, but yeah. We're gonna do this real quick and we're gonna wrap it up for the day. All right, many hours later, because a friend of mine came by and he was the skid steer guy, came and got most of his painting supplies and wanted to stand around and talk, so I didn't get to this immediately, but adding that thin piece of aluminum on top of that other thin piece of aluminum made this much, much stiffer. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're gonna, not that I need that many Clecos to hold this together, I just wanted to see how stiff it would be once the rivets are in there. It'll tighten up even more than that, but it'll be something like this. And if I feel like this still isn't enough, I think that I can break a small piece to go along this inner edge. I know this is a lot to put into one fan shroud, but I'm learning stuff and I don't have any thicker material. I already have all this stuff laying around and I have no idea what I would ever use this extremely thin aluminum for on any other project. Even though there'll probably be something like in a couple weeks and I'll be like, wow, that's set in the corner of my garage and I could have used that right now. But regardless, I think we made pretty good progress this weekend. We bounced around, we let ADD do its thing. And I'm tired, so I'm gonna go inside and pass out. So hopefully I'll see y'all guys next week. And don't forget to do the normal subscribing and all that stuff if you've never been here before. Yeah, thanks for watching.